Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the February 11th, 2025 meeting of the Abington Board of School Directors. I note the attendance of all board members with the exception of Mr. Allen, who is excused. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Abington Board of School Directors has convened this evening's meeting on Zoom, and it is being broadcast on the district's YouTube channel, and the public is welcome. This meeting is being recorded and will be accessible on the district's website and cable channel no later than Friday, February 14th. Happy Valentine's Day. To allow those members of the public who cannot participate to view the meeting at a later time. Comments from citizens will be conducted by phone. Information regarding participating remotely in public comment will be displayed on the screen at the time of public comment. A citizen will be recognized once during this period of the meeting, and each citizen's comments will be limited to a total of 3 minutes, except at the discretion of the president. Time may not be yielded or otherwise transferred by one speaker to another for purposes of extending a given speaker's time allotment. The board thanks the public in advance for its cooperation. This is a place where we hold dignity in high regard, and everyone's voice is respected and welcomed in this space. Dr. Fetcher, do we have any additional announcements or additional agenda items?
Yes, Dr. Mallory. I have 2 announcements this evening. First, as our families have received notice that we are going to operate on a 2-hour delay tomorrow due to the weather. And with that being said, that students should report to their schools or bus stops 2 hours later than their usual scheduled time. We are going to reassess the situation in the morning, and we will be communicating either way. That if we need to move to a full closure due to increased weather conditions, or if we are going to continue with the 2-hour delay based on what weather actually occurs tomorrow morning.
Okay.
So that being said, I would like to also take a moment to remind everyone that information pertaining to our facilities planning process and the future of Abington Middle School is available on the oneasd1future.org website. We will continue to use that as a source of information for you to plan the new middle school, as well as a referendum process and how voters in Abington and Rockledge can have their say at the polls. So there's also a connect form available on that website. So if you should have any questions or would like to provide additional comments to us, that's an excellent way for us to receive that, and we will respond to those as well. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Fetcher. I would also add my voice to that reminder to please check out the One ASD One Future website for information about the facilities planning process. Okay, that brings us to comments of board members. Mrs. Brown.
Good evening, everyone.
Ms. Eisenhart.
Good evening.
I have to do this in my head. Ms. Spalding.
No, good evening, everybody, and great, they were the Eagles.
Ms. Fraser.
Hello.
Did I skip Ms. Hartman?
That's okay. Good evening, everyone.
Sorry. I got you out of alphabetical order. Ms. Fazy.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry about that.
And I skipped Mr. Muhammad. I'm so sorry. Mr. Muhammad.
Good evening, everyone. Go Birds.
All right. Welcome, everyone. I hope you've all recovered from the celebration on Sunday. It was quite a game. Dr. Fetcher, can we proceed to board honors?
Yes, Dr. Mallory. Our For our board honors this evening, first I want to, originally we had planned to honor our students for national merit. We are going to reschedule that as we felt that it was most important to do that in person, and also did not want our students to have to drive or change any concerns with the weather. So we are going to do that at our next meeting. So if you originally saw that, stay tuned. We're excited to honor them, but we want to do it in the best way possible. At this time, I'm going to ask Ms. Ali Artur, our communications coordinator, to share videos highlighting our recent media coverage of Abington School District.
Good evening, Dr. Fetcher, Dr. Mowry, and school directors. Last week, Willow Hill Elementary School participated in the 35th annual African American Read-In, where students formed a human reading chain from one end of the school to the other, reading books written or illustrated by African Americans. The event was timed to the start of Black History Month, and it aims to celebrate literacy and African American voices, and it was covered by 6 ABC Action News. In addition, NBC 10 last week covered a special rendition of Fly, Eagles Fly, performed by members of the Abington Senior High School Music Department. Special thanks to the students and music teacher, Ms. Lori Wolf, for being a good luck charm for our birds. So please enjoy these video clips and go birds.
Students in Montgomery County participated in a read-in event to celebrate Black History Month. Children at Willow Hill Elementary in Abington formed a human reading chain. Older students read books that were selected by the school's librarian to the younger children. The event was part of the annual National African American Read-In Celebration.
But all eyes are on the Eagles.
Yeah,
right
we're talking
now,
about football right now.
For sure. And the song that Eagles fans never get tired of.
Yeah, and as the excitement builds towards Sunday's game, many school bands and school choirs have added Fly, Eagles, Fly to their repertoire.
Nicely done.
Yeah, with a nice little beat there for sure. That's a rendition of the Eagles fight song performed by students from the Abington Senior High School Music Department in Abington, Montgomery County. Great job there. Sound awesome.
Thank you for that. Great to see our students reading and learning about important parts of our history. I think we missed some of the sound on the high school clip, but we could definitely tell that they had a lot of spirit. So that was great.
And they sounded great too. Trust me on that one. I just want to put that out there.
We'll take your word for it.
Thanks. That concludes our honors for this evening, Dr. Mowry.
All right. Great. Thank you. Would you please proceed with this evening's orientation?
Yes, Dr. Mowry. Tonight, I'm going to ask Dr. James Melchor, Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Tony Butts, Director of Teaching and Learning, Dr. Robert Rosenthal, Director of Pupil Services, and Dr. Carmen Lassane, Director, District Equity Officer, to provide an overview of the draft of our Abington School District Comprehensive Plan for the July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2028. Dr. Melchor.
Thank you, Dr. Fetcher, and good evening, Dr. Mowry and members of the Board of School Directors. Last March, we provided an orientation that served as a status update regarding the district's current comprehensive plan, which runs from July 1, 2022 through June 30th of this year, 2025. We also previewed at that time the process that would be commencing to develop the district's 2025 through 2028 comprehensive plan. This evening, we'll share with you the process of development of that plan, as well as a review of draft goals and action steps. On this slide, just as a reminder, I share with you the focal points of the current comprehensive plan. This graphic can be found on the district's website, and it notes the current mission and vision for the school district, as well as the current goals regarding redesigning effective instructional practices and promoting the social and emotional wellness and personal success of all students. The comprehensive planning process is one that we've talked about in the past of plan, do, study, act. It's an iterative process. We continually are reviewing the goals and action steps and outcomes of our current plan. And in doing so, the success or need to continue to implement and review steps of our current plan inform our process for 2025 through 2028. In developing our draft plan, we reviewed data, action steps already completed, and areas for improvement from the current comprehensive plan. This slide and the next slide remind you of the timeline of work related to the development of the draft plan. We began this past spring with updates in the Pennsylvania Department of Education's web-based comprehensive planning tool related to Chapter 4. We had a steering committee that began its work in September and concluded its work this past month in February. This month in February. Included in the work was consideration of chapters 4, 12, 16, and 49, which you see listed on the screen, and we'll speak to those particular components in a little bit. Finally, on the next slide, with regard to timeline, following this evening's presentation, beginning tomorrow, there will be a period of public review and opportunity for public comment on the plan. The plan will be posted on the district website. On March 25th, we will come back to you with a recommended resolution of approval of the draft comprehensive plan. And then following that approval, we will submit the plan to PDE. We're required to submit the plan no later than the end of March. Briefly, I'll share with you the process, the 3 different phases that Pennsylvania Department of Education divides the comprehensive planning process into, which are referred to as ready, set, go. Ready is the beginning of the process with establishment of a steering committee of district stakeholders, followed by review of the local education agency or LEA profile. So taking a look at demographics, statistics, programs offered by the school district, what things looked like when we last developed the plan in 2022, and what updates we need to make to that district profile. Review of the mission and vision for the school district, and also review of the educational values. What are the value statements for the different stakeholder groups with respect to the plan? Steering committee was comprised of about 45 individuals who comprised the groups shown on the screen. We had representation from the school board, administration, staff, parents and guardians, students, and community members. And those folks, as I mentioned, worked from September through February on these different components of the plan. One of the first actions that the steering committee took in its first meeting in September was taking a look at the current mission and vision for Abington School District and providing feedback on any recommended revisions or updates to those 2 statements. The district's mission supports the vision and indicates the district's purpose and overall intention. And the feedback with regard to the mission indicated a desire by the stakeholders on the steering committee to continue the current mission, particularly the tagline of excellence as our standard and achievement as the result. But there was feedback looking to add language regarding preparation of students for challenges and opportunities in their futures. You see that indicated in the 4th line of the mission. The vision statement indicates the ideal state for an organization. It's expected to be inspirational, aspirational. In reviewing the current vision, feedback from the steering committee focused on incorporating engaging, making sure that we are focused on engaging learning environments, as well as having a focus on personal growth and sense of belonging for students, and preparing students for diverse post-secondary pathways, so that we are clear on focusing on not just preparation for college, but also career, military, any opportunities students will have post-senior high school. The set portion of comprehensive planning, following a review of the mission and vision and the LEA profile, we focused on reviewing indicators shown on the screen. what is the district's performance as reflected on the Future Ready PA Index. The PA Index includes indicators such as attendance, graduation rate, performance on state assessments, college and career indicator performance, performance by our English learners. Additionally, we looked at local student performance data. What do local assessments, iReady, Linkit, other assessments that are given that would be more specific to current data from this year? Future Ready includes data from spring of 2024, as well as some lagging indicators from prior school years. Finally, looking at supplemental LEA plans. So those plans include things like our Title I plans for our 4 elementary schools that receive Title I funding. Looking at our special education plan, that plan was reviewed with you and approved by you last spring. And looking at our Chapter 339 plan, which is our K-12 guidance plan for what our student services and supports look like across the district. Finally, we reviewed what PDE refers to as conditions for leadership, teaching, and learning. So what do data from observations and evaluations tell us? What are areas of strength? What are areas that are challenges and areas of need based upon what is found from observation of instruction in the classroom? From all of those different components, we conducted a data review. We reviewed information that was being compiled for the Chapter 4 report, which focuses on standards-aligned instruction and what standards and assessment looks like in Abington School District. We reviewed data for student services assurances. So what do our services with regard to guidance, with regard to bullying prevention, safety and security look like? What does our gifted education plan look like? So reviewing not only the process for determining eligibility for gifted programming in Abington School District, but also what is the success of that programming and what does that programming look like across the K-12 continuum. Review of all of that data takes us to GO, which is the final process in comprehensive planning, the final step, which is identification of strengths and challenges for the school district. And from that identification, determining areas to focus on for goal setting, action planning, professional development, and communication for the next 3-year period. Our focus over the course of our 5 months of steering committee meetings was on the areas of consistency, coherence, and belonging. You'll hear from Drs. Butts, Lesane, and Rosenthal on where we are now with our draft comprehensive plan that's being presented this evening with respect to the goals, action steps, related professional development, and communication strategies. So first, Dr. Butts is going to share with you goals, outcomes, and action plans with respect to coherence of systems.
Thank you, Dr. Melchor. In looking at this particular goal, I just wanted to draw everyone's attention to the comprehensive planning process. Throughout this process, we looked at our district strengths and needs, and we're really drawn to developing goals that were about long-term and systemic changes. As part of the comprehensive plan process, the committee landed on the concepts of coherence, consistency, and belonging. You will see in the following slides and throughout our goals, these 3 things kind of come to life. We will start with the concept of coherence. In education, coherence refers to the alignment and seamless integration of all aspects of a school's instructional system, including curriculum, teaching methods, assessment practices, and learning environment, ensuring that every element works together to support student learning and achieve shared goals, creating a unified and consistent educational experience for students. Essentially, it means everything from the classroom to the school-wide initiatives are working in harmony to maximize student achievement. In order to understand this concept more, you can think of coherence as puzzle pieces fitting together perfectly to form a larger picture. After reviewing our student achievement data, one of our key priorities is providing student-centered support through a process known as multi-tiered system of supports, or MTSS. We aim to increase student growth by 30% across all tiers. This requires refining our MTSS framework and program, strengthening data-driven decision-making, and ensuring consistent implementation across all schools. Our plan includes the following steps. Build a district-wide multi-tiered system of support, shared vision, process, and communication avenues. Strengthen data decision-making through a universal data system for record-keeping and progress monitoring. Establish district-level and building-level MTSS leadership teams with consistent representation, and develop a system of tracking implementation fidelity at the district and school levels. Next slide, please. In addition, our goal for coherence of systems continues with the following actions over the next 3 years. Use implementation data to refine and adjust the MTSS framework. Share success stories and celebrate progress to maintain momentum. Establish a universal data system to collect, analyze, and share student progress data across tiers and also across levels. Find efficiencies in linking platforms used to store and share data. Set expectations for the use of the data warehouse and intervention manager platform to assist school teams in analyzing data, record keeping, and progress monitoring, and continue to train staff to use data to identify students' needs, plan interventions, and monitor growth. Next slide, please. In addition to the MTSS model and process, the district recognizes the importance of improving our instructional practice through the coherence of the observation and the evaluation process. While there are many ways to do this, one way is through the use of quality feedback. Feedback is important because it allows individuals to gain insights into their strengths and areas for improvement. Feedback is an important part of the observation and evaluation process. Our district's goal is to enhance the observation and evaluation process to ensure reliability in providing quality feedback to our teachers and staff. In addition to feedback, by strengthening professional development and implementing a system for inter-rater reliability, we aim to increase targeted instructional practices that are observable by 30% between 2025 and 2028. Next slide. Oh, thank you. In addition, we also plan to support instructional feedback and practices through the following actions. Review performance analysis of current assessment practices to ensure standards alignment and then when correlation is needed, we need to revise assessments as we look at the different analysis of these assessments. We also want to identify evidence-based interventions and strategies for content areas, particularly English language arts and mathematics that are utilized for Tier 2 and Tier 3 support. At this time, Dr. Lassane will review for you consistency of expectations and practice.
Thank you, Dr. Butts. Good evening. In addition to coherence, our committee talked about the importance of consistency. In education, consistency refers to the practice of applying rules, expectations, and methods in a predictable and standards-based way across the system, ensuring that everyone involved understands what is expected of them and know what the expectations for actions and performance means. The consistency of expectations and practice is about holding high expectations for our collaborative work for the betterment of our students and their learning. In understanding the use of consistency for this goal, we need to understand how the process of course recommendations impacts student access and enrollment in the most rigorous courses available to the student. With this particular goal, this metric will be one of many used for course recommendations. However, this goal is used to illustrate an approach of one metric in this decision-making process. This particular goal uses predictive analysis based upon longitudinal data and the participation of over 110,000 students at each grade level of the state assessment in grades 3 through 8. For this goal, by 2027 through 2028, 100% of our students who have a projected proficient or advanced performance on standardized assessments on PVAS will enroll in honors level or advanced placement classes. Our plan includes the following action steps: revise multiple data set and other objective measures for the course recommendation process based on previous year's data on recommendations. Eliminate bias or opinion-based recommendation processes. Implement a new multiple data set course recommendation process. Implement a series of activities to better engage parents and guardians in the course selection process. Activities will include individual contacts to parents and guardians of students who have shown a projected proficiency or advanced level of performance on standardized assessments. Next slide, please. In addition, the following actions will also support work to be completed in providing students with increased opportunities for participating in rigorous courses of study. Audit local curriculum, including use of surveys, focus groups, and advisory groups to gather perspectives on strengths and areas of improvement. Implement vertical articulation opportunities among professional staff to promote curricular crosswalks, as well as coherence of interventions across grade bands. Implement opportunities for parent and guardian engagement in understanding district instructional systems, including curricular programs, instructional tools, and vertical articulation at times of transition between grade spans. At this time, I turn it over to Dr. Rosenthal, who will review the comprehensive plan's goals for belonging.
Thank you, Dr. Lassane. As stated earlier, our mission and vision reflect how much the district views the importance of ensuring that all students have a solid sense of belonging and of the value of the cultural diversity of our community. The outcome of this goal is to increase the social, behavioral, and emotional wellness of all students. The measurable goal that we have for this outcome is that we will improve all students' social and emotional learning skills as measured by a score of 3.4 or higher in each of the 3 areas of the Pennsylvania School Climate Survey, which are social emotional learning, student support, and safe school climate. 3.4 is the score the survey suggests as being a strength. The other measurable goal is to reach a 10% increase in what's called the DESA Mini, which is the teacher-rated assessment given before and then after the second step SEL curriculum is given. Our action plan was developed after a number of meetings with stakeholders. As we have made great progress using a culturally responsive positive behavior intervention and support framework, PB or CRPBIS, to improve climate, the plan includes utilizing and improving all tiered interventions and supports. Our school teams and pupil services staff have already begun a self-assessment of the evidence-based strategies for CRPBIS and the resulting action planning to improve these strategies. Our teaching staff and pupil services staff will continue to receive professional development in these areas, and we will share achievement and initiatives with our parents and guardians. Second slide. Okay, it is clear that all students need instruction in social emotional learning in order to develop these skills. Another action step is to continue with social emotional learning, looking at our curriculum and programs critically for effectiveness. All staff and administration have received some level of restorative practices professional development this year. Our 2 coaches this year are identifying champions of restorative practices in each building, and our plan includes having restorative practices take place throughout the next 3 years, as we have seen this preventative approach directly reduce recidivism in student behavior. Administrators will utilize restorative practices as an alternative to traditional exclusionary discipline approaches when appropriate and feasible. Of course, our school teams will continue the practice of reviewing attendance and discipline data monthly so that they can make adjustments throughout the year. And with that, I will turn it back to Dr. Butts.
Thank you, Dr. Rosenthal. In addition to our district's comprehensive plan, the district is required to provide specific plans for induction and professional development. Both of these plans were crafted by multiple stakeholder groups that met over the scope of September through December this past fall. The induction plan is a required 2-year program that helps new teachers or teachers new to the district to improve their teaching practices. The induction program's purpose is to help new teachers meet the state's high academic standards, to increase retention rates, and to help teachers use instructional practices that improve student achievement. Abington School District's induction program has 3 levels of support for the inductee. These 3 levels of supports are at the district level, building level, and at the individual level through the help of mentor support. The 2-year program is differentiated by job responsibilities as well as by needs. For example, where needed, new guidance counselors would work with Dr. Rosenthal on specific guidance, specific learning, and training. Classroom teachers would receive support in their specific content area from either department chairs and supervisors, as well as their mentors, and trainings on the curriculum and the materials needed for them to be successful teaching their courses. Changes from the previous induction plan include increased flexible opportunities and an expansion from a 1 to 2-year program. The increased flexible opportunities are part of the recognition of the different needs that inductees may have given their backgrounds, their job responsibilities, and any unique state requirements that they must learn about. The newly mandated 2-year program includes 2 years of working with a mentor teacher and the ability to participate in learning activities to support their individual needs as new professionals. The professional development plan integrates Abington School District's commitment to have a flexible plan of how the professional development is delivered to our teachers and staff members. This includes having flexible professional development time that is both in person or online. It includes the ability to participate in a differentiated model of supervision and evaluation. The delivery of professional development can also take place during faculty meetings or during traditional in-service day programs. In addition, the professional development plan is focused on being data-driven through the use of analysis of multiple data points, survey results, and individual teacher feedback. Key areas for the professional development plan will be on innovative instructional practices, student-centered learning experiences, student access, and a sense of belonging. These areas mirror our comprehensive plan goals. Next, we return to Dr. Melchior for our presentation's conclusion.
Thank you, Dr. Butts. Shown on this slide are some of the different groups who have been involved in providing feedback thus far for development of our draft plan. Since we began this work last spring, we have had opportunities for feedback related to the goals and action steps that are presently in the draft plan, not only, as Dr. Butts just mentioned, from the 2 committees, specifically with respect to professional development induction. Superintendent's committee regarding portrait of a graduate has also provided feedback, as has the equity committee. You know that we are currently engaged in an educational equity audit, which has provided opportunity for the plan to be informed from that feedback from students, staff, as well as parents and guardians, and finally our principals council. Beginning tomorrow, the draft plan will be on public display for additional feedback. That process is a 28-day process. So from tomorrow, February 12th through March 11th, there will be a link on the homepage of the district website that will provide access to the draft plan, as well as a dedicated email address that can be used for individuals to provide feedback. Following the close of the public review period and consideration of any received feedback, a finalized plan will be presented to you on March 25th for recommended approval. And as I mentioned at the start of the presentation, by March 31st, we will submit the plan to PDE and begin implementing action steps on July 1st. We close with this slide. Just, as you know, in Abington School District, the comprehensive plan really is a living document. It's a roadmap for our next 3 years. It's not a document that sits on a shelf. This really is the guideline for our next 3 years of professional development, induction, and focus on teaching and learning. We'll regroup the steering committee periodically to review progress. We'll be back before you as well periodically to share progress on our measurable goals. And as the quote says, the main thing is to make the main thing the main thing. And the main thing in this case is a renewed focus on coherence, consistency, sense of belonging to center our work to ensure that we're providing programs to support all students in their growth and achievement. With that, Dr. Fetcher, I'll turn it over for questions or comments.
Right. Thank you for the presentation. Dr. Maury, we can answer any questions that the board may have at this time.
Okay. If my fellow board members don't mind, since I can't see you on my screen, I'm just going to go through the seating order we have. Mrs. Brown.
Yes, it was my pleasure to sit on the steering committee. A few things that I really enjoy about Abington in general, but specifically for this, is that the work that we do is not a few people sitting in a room making decisions on behalf of the whole school district. That steering committee consisted of, as was already mentioned, different stakeholders, including parents and community members and teachers and board members, and I really do appreciate that. I also appreciate the feedback opportunities. It helps the plan to take into consideration the other work that's being done, like through the principal council, the equity committee, the portrait of a graduate. All of that feedback is helping to make this living document a whole. And then the last thing is that it is a living document. So I'm thankful for the work that went into it, and I am excited to see it go into effect in July so that we can continue to steer the ship in the right direction.
Thank you. Ms. Eisenhart.
Mrs. Brown was well stated there. I appreciate that, and I have nothing further.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Mohammed.
Just thank you for the work that was put in and putting this plan together. I did have one question about the students who are predicted proficient or advanced, registering for honors and AP classes. I do appreciate that and in hopes that it will increase representation of all of our students and the diversity that we have within our community, have it being reflected in our classrooms, all of them. Predicted. So this isn't dependent specifically on the standardized test, because I do know that many families opt out of the standardized test. So if you could just clarify that for me.
Correct. It would be the predicted, how the students are predicted to perform on the standardized assessments.
Based on the diagnostics throughout the year?
Correct.
Right. The goal, Mr. Mohammed, would be to ensure that we have, and this is work that Dr. Brown a few years ago, through a partnership that the school district had with Digital Promise, started to develop a tool to ensure that we're looking at multiple measures, multiple data sets, and engaging parents and students in that conversation. So, if you have a student who has demonstrated the potential and the potential ability to be successful in a higher level course, then perhaps he or she is thinking about registering for, we can have that conversation, look at the data with the student, speak with the parent, ensure that we're also putting in place appropriate supports to help that child be successful. So that, if there's a need for additional, opportunity for tutoring or support or whatever it may be within the school building, that we're looking at what potential barriers might be for a student enrolling and helping to knock those barriers down and give those supports.
Thank you for that. So you said multiple measures, multiple diagnostics, multiple data sets. One piece of data would be the diagnostic. What's another one or two that would go into that sort of comprehensive look at a student?
Sure. I'm going to ask Dr. Butts if you can speak to some of the different data measures and data points that we would be looking at for recommendations.
Hello. So the different data sets would include not only a student's grade, but also in addition to some of the diagnostics, there are some other types of assessments that we do use. So the benchmarks would be one of them, and they have a predictive quality to them. Even with our current readings assessments, in which we look at Lexile levels, there is a comprehensive set of analytics that are associated with that. But we are also wanting to make sure that we really, to be frank, leave no stone unturned, leave no child that has potential or demonstrates potential to always, we really want to encourage all of our children to be involved in the most rigorous course that they can be involved with. And it's important for us to continue not only to use the diagnostics that we have, but also as we move forward with this and as we look at this data and as we look at what is being successful, we may need to explore additional forms of data or information to make sure that we are making the best recommendations for our students and ensuring that we have the representation that we would like to have and see in all of our classes.
And part of it too is, Dr. Butts started with the goal related to MTSS. It's not a once and done effort, meaning in the fall, when students are in a new course, looking at success of students, looking at how students are performing, looking at if there is a need for additional supports, looking at if a student is in a course that perhaps they should have been enrolled in or could have enrolled in a higher level honors level course, AP course, and revisiting a student's schedule and a student's performance at the start of the year. If a student was projected to be able to have a level of success in a course and isn't finding that level of success, using the MTSS process, using the protocol that Dr. Butts referred to in the goal related to MTSS, to look at what are the barriers, what is causing the student to not be as successful as they were projected to be, and ensuring that we're putting in place processes to help them meet with success, that we're communicating with parents and guardians and improving our communication two-way with parents and guardians and students to ensure that if they've demonstrated an ability to be successful, that they are finding success in these courses.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Spalding?
No, I have nothing to add at this time.
Okay, Ms. Hartman?
Questions were answered. I just want to say thank you to everybody who was involved in putting this together. It's very comprehensive. And these are great goals for our district. So thank you.
Ms. Fraser?
Yes, I have several comments or questions. Based on what was just mentioned, it sounds like there's software that's going to determine which students are eligible or likely to enter AP courses. And given the the scores that we're seeing with the aggregate groups, particularly African Americans, there seems like they're going to be pretty non-existent in some of those AP classes. But we could discuss that later. There was some mention of building multi-tiered student supports. And my question, I'm wondering, what might that look like? And would that include differentiation based on all students' needs?
I'll let Dr. Butts again speak to the MTSS. I would say with regard to the first part, Ms. Fraser, it's not, I think of it not as software making a decision, but better use of systems and programs that we have in place for our data warehousing and collection of information with regard to benchmark assessments and other assessments so that we have better systems in place to review data and to utilize data in making decisions. Not having a system do it for us, but having a better means through the MTSS process of using the data that we have gathered and having it in one place for teachers, administrators, parents, and guardians to be able to access and use. Dr. Butts, can you add to that with regard to the process for MTSS?
So if I don't address your question, please let me know. But in regards to the process of MTSS, the aspect of coherence that we really need to look at with our MTSS program is to ensure that we have all of the different components of MTSS, from the data analysis, from the review of all of our students and the way that we would approach that, that all fits together so that we have a process that is very effective. I think, sometimes when you have a process like MTSS and you have it in different buildings, sometimes each of the buildings may start to develop their own way of troubleshooting, but perhaps that may take them maybe too far away from the process that it has been developed, that is research-based, that is evidence-based. And so we really want to ensure that there is a process that all works together, that has some consistency as part of that, but also has the ability to ensure that we're using the best strategies and instructional practices for each child to really support that child in growing and to achieve as best as they can achieve. So if I didn't answer your question, please let me know.
Are you referring to AP placements or the multi-tiered student supports?
Oh, I'm talking about MTSS. My apologies, Ms. Fraser.
That's okay.
So you had made a statement regarding whether if we were to use a process for course recommendations, and the course recommendations are based upon a predictive analysis, would we reduce the number of students potentially from some of our groups, whether it is Black students or Latino students, further reduce them? Actually, I would posit the opposite. When you look at our data, our students of color the gap is the least discrepant at the elementary level. And what we're seeing within the data is that the number of students who have a predictive analysis that says they're going to do better is at a younger age. And we're going to tap into that data and make recommendations based off of that data. So in some ways, we believe we may be increasing more students in higher or more rigorous classes. I hope that's making sense.
Yes, and also involving the social emotional learning outcomes. Are they aggregated? The outcomes, the numbers for each group and their performance?
Dr. Rosenfeld.
So for example, I understand that the score of 3.4 shows strengths. So I'm just curious, what is the overall score for African Americans if they're aggregated?
Yes, we do look at not all data that we get from the state can be aggregated, but the climate survey, we are able to look at those groups. And when the teams meet to develop their plans for climate, they always look at all of those groups when making those plans.
Okay.
The DESA Mini that looks specifically individually at the social emotional skills, there's that that we look at by whole group. They don't analyze it by aggregating, disaggregating.
And so what's that number or percentage?
That we're looking for every student to make a 10% gain in their school, in their teacher rated score for their social emotional learning skills, from before they get the curriculum to post when they're done with the curriculum, to demonstrate growth.
So if 3.4 shows the strength, what might it be for the overall group for, let's say, Black students? Under that, above that?
No, I'm sorry. So there are two different measures. The Pennsylvania School Climate Survey, the overall score, it's a 4-point Likert scale. So any school in any of those scales that scores higher at 3.4 or higher, that's considered a strength. And anything below a 2.5 is considered a weakness. And that's just something they give us as a measure. But we do look at individually at the schools, and then we also break it down and disaggregate with the groups they give us.
Okay, so are you able to answer what the score might be for the African American population? Or am I just not getting this?
It's different at every school. That's what I'm trying to say. They don't give it to us aggregate for the whole district and then disaggregate, but we only get it by school, and then we give that data back to the schools. So each school is different. I did a presentation in the fall, and I'm happy to share that data with you.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Ms. Fazy.
I have no questions. Thank you so much for this very comprehensive presentation. Thank you.
Okay, and Ms. Wu, I neglected to acknowledge you at the beginning of the meeting, and I apologize for that. I'm still adjusting. Do you have any comments or questions?
No, I just wanted to say that there are many students that need someone to encourage them to go take more harder classes. So I think that this would be a good idea.
Great, thank you for that. I have one question, and well, I started out with one, and I think now I have two. So I just want to make sure I understand. MTSS is a protocol, a program, a company. Can I get clarification on that?
So think of it as a process, not a company, not a program. Multi-tiered systems of support are going to, part of the protocol is looking at student data, looking at student success, looking at indicators of academics, of attendance, of behavior, of discipline, and how we can support students to be successful within the school. So it's identifying needs for tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 interventions. They might be behavioral, they might be academic. So part of it is related to you've heard in many presentations reference to what I need time, win time. So looking at what types of supports can be put into place for students to be successful.
Right.
Want to ensure that from the standpoint of consistency, that we have the same process, the same protocol in place across the district, and the same means of looking at the data, looking at areas of student need to help them be successful.
Okay. So that makes sense to me. And then I had a question about predictive analytics. Are we talking AI? What is it? What do you mean by the term predictive analytics?
Sure. Dr. Bucks, can you speak to PVAS and how that works? This is something that has been around long before
Okay,
AI.
that's all I needed
yeah.
to know. I heard that and I thought,
Yeah,
okay, because if we're the reason I asked is because if we're using a predictive analytic, which AI is, then I had questions about student privacy. But if we're not,
no.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Does anyone else have any other questions? Okay. Dr. Fetcher, I believe that takes us to item 4, comments from citizens.
Yes, that concludes our orientation for this evening.
Okay. Comments from citizens are being conducted by phone today. The phone number to participate in public comments is 267-715-3717 and is being displayed on the screen at this time. You'll be able to join the meeting by calling in on your mobile or landline. And Mr. Green, you'll let me know when and if someone phones in, yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We do have a caller on the line.
Okay. Go ahead if you can hear me.
The next citizen for public comment is phone number ending in 8557. Please state your full name and address.
Hi, my name is Lydia Sitt, and I'm a mom to 2 children at Rydal. I'm very much in support of the new middle school, and I'll be voting yes in the referendum come May 20th. And I appreciate the information provided on the One ASD, One Future website and how it's been updated to reflect the chosen proposal. But speaking on behalf of the parents who have not yet had their children attend the middle school and haven't seen firsthand sort of the deteriorating state of the building and facilities, I do think it would be really helpful if the website would post pictures alongside the descriptions of the problems in like the roofing, windows, floors, the traffic issues due to layout problems, the poor accessibility, lack of natural light, all the things that are described on the website. But I do think that the community would value having all this information accessible through pictures, because we all know the saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words. And with that information, I do believe that more members of the community will come to the same decision that I have, that this is an important and absolutely necessary investment in our community. And for the same reasons, I also want to ask if the tours are still being offered of the middle school, just as they were prior to the community survey. And if tours of the middle school can be offered again, could you please put the info on how to arrange for a tour on the One ASD, One Future website as well? Thank you.
Thank you for your voice. Mr. Green, do we have anyone else on the line?
Yes, we do. The next citizen for public comment is phone number ending in 6790. Please state your full name and address.
Thank you for your. Hello.
Hello, go ahead.
Oh, hi. This is Jen Pertel. I live in Glenside. My question is, well, first of all, I want to say thank you to the district administrators and the steering committee for all the work they did on the comprehensive plan that they just were going over. My question is, the data, that they kept referencing all the data that they use to make these decisions. And it's a big part of planning and assessing progress in education. And I wondered if there is a Pennsylvania Department of Education, a department within the Pennsylvania Department of Education that gathers and processes the data and provides the results to us. Just because I saw in the news that the one at the federal level is, at least they're attempting to shut it down. And I'm concerned about how we can make progress if we don't know the data. So I would appreciate just getting some clarity on that, and hopefully that will not be an issue. Thank you.
Thank you for your voice. Mr. Green?
We do have another caller.
Okay, go
The
ahead.
next citizen for public comment is phone number ending in 5884. Please state your full name and address.
Is this for, are you talking to me?
Yes, you are on.
Okay. I'm sorry. I thought I was waiting for another guy. This is Joe Rooney in Ardsley. First, real quickly, from my listening, the comprehensive plan is incoherent. I'd really love to sit with one of the school directors, maybe Ms. Fahey could tell me what vertical articulation is and restorative practices. Any one of you would be great. And then just as a point, even our esteemed board president didn't know what MTSS is, and she's been on the board for at least 4 years. So when you're making a presentation like that and board members don't even know what it is, it needs to be brought to a little more comprehensive level. So thanks. But real quick, I'm just up here to talk. If somebody's in here listening, you need to vote no on this current plan. It's not like the middle school doesn't need work, but after years of neglect, we need to make a real plan that actually makes sense. Just real quickly, folks, $285 million. Yep, over $250 million. And over 40 years, that'll actually mean we pay $670 million for the school. That's $850 a square foot at the opening cost, but by the time we pay it off, it'll be $1,900 a square foot. They build skyscrapers in Philadelphia for a fraction of this cost. That's 345,000 square feet. If you have 2,500 students in the middle school and you pay off over 40 years, that'll add up to each student's, the bill to educate them will go up $6,700 every year for 40 years. I know it's a lot of numbers, but I'll post them all. Second thing, taxes on your property. You're going to go up probably $1,000 per house. What you can actually think that'll be is when you look at your tax bill, it's going to eliminate basically your homestead tax reduction if you live here. All this stuff they talk about with senior tax rebate, that's all going away. It's all being consumed by this plan. The average cost is going to go up $1,000, but you got to realize not only are you paying those taxes, but every local business is also going to have to increase their costs to cover their increased tax load. And in short, this hurts low-income people. It hurts struggling families. It hurts the elderly and people who are on a fixed income, and it's an attack on small businesses. It's not that we don't need to do repairs. It's not that we don't need improvements. We need a better plan than just spending $285 million and having somebody say, don't worry, if you give us over $250 million, we'll spend the money. So thank you for your time.
The next citizen for public comment is phone number ending in 1637. Please state your full name and address.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. This is Erin Palmer, and I live on Carmet Road. And I'm calling to voice my support for the construction of a new middle school. My daughter is currently in 8th grade there, and I have no younger children who would benefit from a new school, but I believe in a quality educational learning environment for all students and their teachers. I'm just going to mention a few ways that a new, larger school would benefit the students and the teachers. Currently, because of the size of the cafeterias in the middle school, there are 4 different lunch periods so that all the students have time to eat. A new school would provide more space for lunch, which would result in fewer lunch periods and more time for instruction. The HVAC systems, as we all know, are outdated, which I'm sure contributes to excessive absences due to sickness, which can interrupt a student's learning. The lack of natural light in the classrooms, which someone mentioned earlier, could affect the concentration and performance of some, if not all, students. The students also deserve better and updated sports and performing arts spaces. And the crowded hallways cause safety issues for students and teachers. There are so many other problems in the current school that, as we can see from the research, a renovation just would be a temporary fix, and in the long run would cost the district more money than building a new school. So for these reasons and many others, I'll be voting for the construction of a new building on May 20th. I just wanted to thank all of you for providing the opportunities to voice our opinions and for sharing all of the research in such a comprehensive manner. And thank you all for your time. Have a good evening and be safe.
We have no more callers on the line.
Great. Dr. Fetcher.
Thank you, Dr. Mowry. Just to address some of the comments tonight from our citizens. First, in terms of we appreciate the feedback from our caller about having more pictures and possibly setting up another tour of the middle school. One thing that I would direct our public to is on our 1SD onefuture.org website, we do have a section called Planning Resources. Within that, there's a feasibility study, which includes a lot of those pictures, and there's a virtual tour of the building as well. But what we'll do is take that into consideration in terms of how to make sure that it's easy to find, and then also look at possibly having the ability to set up a future tour as well. And to address our citizen who's referenced our Pennsylvania data, there are a number of ways that Pennsylvania Department of Ed provides data to us. One of the ways is through our Future Ready PA Index, and that is a service that is done by PDE to the districts, and it's also publicly accessible information for everyone to see in terms of the data and how our schools rate compared to other schools and districts. And there's an ability to do some comparisons there as well. We also receive reports from PDE that are based on our state assessments. And these reports are key to the data that moves into the district so that we can make decisions, see where there are shortcomings, and also see where there are areas of success within the district. So there are multiple data points, and those are just some of the areas that PDE is providing us with that type of information. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fetcher. I believe that takes us to agenda item 6, yes? The approval of minutes. Mr. Mohammed, can you please read the recommendation to approve the January meeting minutes?
It is the recommended action that the Board of School Directors approves the minutes of the board meeting on January 14th, 2025, and the board meeting on January 28th, 2025.
Second.
We have a second. This is a voice vote. All those in favor, aye. All those opposed, nay.
Aye.
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 Okay, the ayes have it and the motion carries. Mr. Mohammed, can you please read the recommendation for approval of the personnel addendum?
It is a recommended action that the Board of School Directors approves the changes in personnel as reflected in Personnel Addenda number 7.1 and 7.1A.
Second.
We have a second, Dr. Fetcher.
Thank you, Dr. Mowry. The personnel addendum tonight begins with a request for leaves of absence for 2 professional staff members and compensation for IP meetings and department curriculum leader meetings. I want to bring your attention to the retirement of Mr. John D'Elia, our groundsman in the facilities department, who has served the district for 25 years. Thank you.
25 years is quite an accomplishment, and we thank you for your dedication and your service to the district. Questions or comments from board members? Nothing? Okay. All right. Mrs. Flanagan, this is a roll call vote.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Eisenhart?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Spalding?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Ms. Fazy? Ms. Frazier? Aye. Ms. Hartman? Aye. Ms. Frazier? Aye. Ms. Frazier? Aye. Ms. Spalding? Aye. Ms. Hartman? Aye. Ms. Frazier? Aye.
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye. The ayes have it. The motion passes. Mr. Mohammed, can you please read the recommendation for approval of the financials report?
It is the recommended action that the Board of School Directors approves the financial report for the period ending December 31st, 2024, as reflected in addendum number 8.1.
Second.
We have a second, Dr. Fetcher.
Thank you, Dr. Mowry. I'm going to ask Mr. Linetti if you could please summarize the December 2024 financial report.
Thank you, Dr. Fetcher. For the period ending December 31st, 2024, real estate tax collections are ahead $6 million when compared to the same time period in 2023. Year to date, total revenue is $8.2 million ahead of last year at $149.1 million. As of December of 2023, the district had collected $140.9 million in total revenue. The difference is due to the 5.3% Act 1 index real estate tax increase that was enacted for 24-25, as well as greater receipts of delinquent taxes, interest earnings, earned income taxes, and payment of increased state basic education and special education subsidies from the state. Year-to-date expenditures are $81.2 million, which is $3.8 million greater than the same time last year at $77.4 million. In terms of percent of budget, 40.6% of the budget has been expended year-to-date. Last year through December, 40.7% of the budget was expended, which is very consistent with the current year. That concludes my comments, Dr. Fetcher, regarding the December financial report.
Thank you, Mr. Linetti. Dr. Maurer, you can answer any questions that you may have in regard to the financial report.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments from the board? No? Okay. Mrs. Flanagan, this is another roll call vote.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Eisenhart?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Spalding?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Ms. Fazy?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye. The ayes have it. The motion passes. Mr. Mohammed, can you please read the recommendations for permits for use of buildings and grounds?
It is the recommended action that the Board of School Directors approves the applications for permits for use of buildings and grounds as reflected in addendum number 9.1.
Second.
Dr. Fetcher, we have a second.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Mowry. The permit addendum continues to reflect typical requests for buildings and grounds for meetings and other school events and activities for this time of year. I would, however, like to bring your attention to permit number 477. And this is for our Citizens and Police Together, or CAPT, and Abington Community Task Force, or ACT, and Police Athletic League, or PAL, triathlon to be held on Saturday, May 31st, 2025 from 7 a.m. through 1 p.m.
That's quite an addition to the roster.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Comments or questions from my fellow board members?
Just a continued thank you to the community members, staff, and our police officers who are so intentional about creating spaces for students for enjoyment and belonging.
Absolutely. Anyone else? All right. Mrs. Flanagan, if you would, please.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Eisenhart?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Spalding?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Ms. Fazy?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye. The ayes have it and the motion carries. Mr. Mohammed, can you please read the recommendation for permission to advertise for bids?
It is the recommended action that the Board of School Directors approves the advertisement for bids as reflected in addendum number 10.1.
Second.
Dr. Fetcher, we have a second.
Thank you, Dr. Mowry. This evening, we have one request for permission to advertise, and this is for our supply bids. This is a routine annual request for 12 categories of supply bids to be used during the 2025-2026 school year.
Okay, questions or comments from board members?
These orders are crucial in ensuring that students and teachers have what they need at the start of next school year. So looking forward to voting yes on this.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. All right, Mrs. Flanagan, please.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Eisenhart?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Spalding?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Ms. Fazy?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye. The ayes have it and the motion passes. Mr. Mohammed, can you please read the recommendation for awards of contracts?
It is recommended action that the Board of School Directors approves the awards of contracts as reflected in addendum number 11.1.
Second.
Dr. Fetcher, we have a second.
Thank you, Dr. Mowry. Tonight, for your consideration, we have two awards of contract. The first is for a capital lease finance agreement for a wheelchair accessible 9-passenger student transportation van. And the next is for a wheelchair accessible 9-passenger student transportation van.
Okay. Questions or comments from the board? How long is the lease for?
Give me one moment. I'm just double checking. Mr. Lionel, if you have that information.
I do, Dr. Fetcher. Payments will begin in this current school year, 2024-25, and will extend to 2028-29.
Okay, so about 5 years.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'm just curious. For this budget here, does it come from Title I funds?
Mr. Lionetti, believe that this is from the general fund budget and not through access funds. Is that correct?
That is correct. This is general fund budget for
Thank
this
you.
year and will be proposed in each of the successive years of the agreement.
And this item, Mr. Lionetti, I just want to, this could qualify for access funds, but there's a limited number of access funds, correct?
That is correct.
So in the past, you may have seen a similar type of van that has been funded by Access, which is a federal program. At this particular van is not because reaching limits of access funds and planning for those access funds.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, Mrs. Flanagan?
Mrs. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Eisenhart?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Spalding?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman? Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Ms. Fazy?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye. The ayes have it and the motion passes. Mr. Mohammed, can you please read the recommendation for approval of the 2025-2026 school calendar? Hard to believe we're at this point already.
It is the recommended action that the Board of School Directors approves the school calendar for the 2025-2026 for 2025-2026 as reflected in addendum number 12.1.
Second.
We have a second, Dr. Fetcher.
Thank you, Dr. Mowry. Tonight we recommend, as you can see on the attachment, the 2025-2026 school year, which is also attached to the agenda as well. This includes the adherence to major holidays and observances, and creates a total of 182 student days and adheres to our 191 contractual days for our teaching staff.
Okay, any questions or comments from board members?
I just wanted to commend the administration for being so thoughtful and strategic in creating a calendar that is intentional about creating opportunities for students and in some cases staff to take part in those observances and holidays that haven't always been found their way on school calendars, and in some instances are not finding their way on school calendars. And so this holiday includes recognition of Eid al-Fitr, Diwali, Lunar New Year, and many others that reflects the diversity of our community and our continued commitment to embracing diversity and creating a more equitable and inclusive school community for our wonderful residents.
Indeed. Thank you for that. Anyone else?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment on the township calendar. Last year in 2024, and again this year, it was not published the dates that we have school board meetings for the fall. So, I mean, I don't know why. I've been asked by a couple of people in my neighborhood, how come they don't want to publish the school board meetings in the fall? All right, that's it.
Yeah, we just to address that, we do provide the township with the list. Tonight, you'll see in the next agenda item that we will look at. We will publish the dates of our school board meetings for next fiscal year, starting in August, and that we do furnish that list to the township for their creation to place in the calendar. We'll make sure that we do that again. And we'll also follow up to mention that there was a concern brought to our attention that the school board meeting dates were not in there. So thank you for bringing that out to us, but we will publish this on our website. It's on our board docs, and you will see in the next agenda item a copy of all those dates as well.
Perhaps board members can encourage our respective commissioners to make that adoption as well. I agree with Ms. Spalding. I think that would be helpful. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. With that, Mrs. Flanagan, please.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Eisenhart?
Aye.
Mr. Muhammad?
Aye.
Ms. Spalding?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Ms. Fazy?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye. The ayes have it and the motion passes. Mr. Mohammed, can you please read the recommendations for the 2025-2026 public meeting dates?
It is the recommended action that the Board of School Directors approves the board meeting dates for the 2025-2026 school year as reflected in addendum number 13.1 and directs the board secretary to advertise these dates in accordance with the provisions of Act 84 of 1986 of the General Assembly of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Second.
Dr. Fetcher, we have a second.
Thank you, Dr. Mowry. As I mentioned, these are the dates for the school board meeting for next season. And they are typically the second and fourth Tuesdays in the month. However, we have a correlation with the relationship with the school calendar, and we make sure that we have those two. There's an exception on Monday, December 1st, which you will see is the first Monday, and that is for the December reorganization meeting. We also have our special awards meeting that will be held on June 1st, 2026, in this new tradition of honoring our students in the auditorium at Abington Senior High School as a way that we have noted that it is difficult sometimes within the boardroom to make sure that all parents and relatives can have an opportunity to view their students receiving the award. And we want to have this opportunity for special recognition for our students who go above and beyond and achieve great things. So excited to make sure that that is on there, and you'll see that on June 1st. So we're excited for that for next year, but also for our inaugural year this year.
Great, thank you. I'm looking forward to that meeting. It's going to be an exciting one. Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, Mrs. Flanagan, please.
Mrs. Brown,
Aye.
Ms. Eisenhart,
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed,
Aye.
Ms. Spalding,
Aye.
Ms. Hartman,
Aye.
Ms. Frazier,
Aye.
Ms. Fazy,
Aye.
Dr. Mowry.
Aye. The ayes have it and the motion passes. Mr. Mohammed, could you please read the recommendation for the 2025-2026 MCIU budget?
It is the recommended action that the Board of School Directors, in accordance with Section 914A, 6, Act 102 of 1970, approves the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit 2025-2026 membership services budget in the amount of $2,107,175 for the 2025-2026 school year, and said budget to be further acted upon by a proportionate vote of all school directors.
Second.
Dr. Fetcher, we have a second.
Thank you, Dr. Mowry. I'm going to ask Mr. Linetti, could you please review the 2025-2026 MCIU membership services budget?
Thank you, Dr. Fetcher. Approval of the MCIU membership services budget requires an affirmative vote at a public meeting of each of the boards of the member school districts and a proportionate affirmative vote from the individual members of those boards of school directors. The 2025-26 MCIU membership services expense budget is just over $2 million, which reflects an increase of $4,500 or 0.2% compared to the current year budget. The expense budget is funded by $1.6 million of contributions from the 22 member school districts, which reflects a 1% increase compared to the current year. Abington's contribution for 25-26 is $109,694, which is a $4,200 increase at 4% compared to the current school year contribution. Abington's 25-26 payment is 6.8% of the total contributions and is consistent with the current year's contribution of 6.7%. Abington's contribution supports professional learning and staff development, government relations, and technology services. Our contribution is the fourth highest contribution rate amongst the Montgomery County schools. The factors used to calculate each member school's contributions include the market factor rate ratios, weighted average daily membership, and enrollment. Both Dr. Fetcher and I recommend approval of the budget presented by the MCIU at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Linetti.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say thank you too.
That's fine.
Thank you, Mr. Linetti. Questions and comments from board members? I would just add that the MCIU provides the district with an enormous number of services. And our contribution to its budget, from my perspective anyways, is kind of a bargain in a world where there aren't a lot of bargains. Anyone else? All right, Mrs. Flanagan.
Mrs. Brown,
Aye.
Ms. Eisenhart,
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed,
Aye.
Ms. Spalding,
Aye.
Ms. Hartman,
Aye.
Ms. Frazier,
Aye.
Ms. Fazy,
Aye.
Dr. Mowry.
Aye. The ayes have it and the motion carries. Mr. Mohammed, can you please read the recommendation for tax collector remuneration?
It is the recommended action that the Board of School Directors approves the tax collector's remuneration as reflected in addenda numbers 15.1 and 15.1A.
Aye. Second.
We have a second, Dr. Fetcher.
Thank you, Dr. Mallory. I'm going to ask Mr. Lionetti if you could please review the established compensation and reimbursement of expenses for the two tax collectors.
Thank you, Dr. Fetcher. Every 4 years by February 15th, the district is required to establish compensation and reimbursement of expenses for its two tax collectors. We have tax collectors in both Rockledge Township as well as Abington Township, Rockledge Borough. This action establishes the rate of pay and amount of reimbursement expenses for 2026, 2027, 2028, and 2029 calendar years. Addendas 15 and 15.1A detail the recommended amounts for the Abington and Rockledge school tax collectors. The recommendation for both tax collectors is for a base salary increase of 3.4% for 2026 and the 3 years thereafter. The 3.4% increase per year that is recommended is similar to Act 1 index forecast for those next 4 years. The remuneration also includes reimbursement of operating expenses and an allowance for medical benefits for the Abington tax office staff. The Rockledge tax collector addendum includes reimbursement of expenses that remain flat at $3,500 each of the next 4 years, as the Rockledge tax collector expenses have consistently been under that amount. Dr. Fetcher and I recommend the remuneration of our tax collectors as reflected in 15 and 15.1A.
Thank you, Mr. Lionetti.
Questions or comments from board members? No? Okay, Mrs. Flanagan, please.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Eisenhart?
Aye.
Mr. Muhammad?
Aye.
Ms. Spalding?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Ms. Fazy?
Aye.
Dr. Mallory?
Aye. The ayes have it. The motion passes. Dr. Fetcher, are there any additional reports and recommendations by the administration?
Yes, Dr. Mallory.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yes, Dr. Mallory. I provide for you this evening the conference attendance and professional leaves and the capital improvement projects report for your information. I would like to bring your attention to Dr. Julia Zarco, our school psychologist, who will present 2 sessions at the National Association of School Psychologists 2025 annual conference on February 18th and 19th.
Okay. Any comments by my fellow board members? I want to continue Mrs. Brown's tradition of commending our faculty and staff who are out in their professional organizations and contributing to greater understanding in their disciplines and representing the district so well. Okay, that brings us to the final segment of comments from citizens. So once again, comments from citizens are being conducted they're not being conducted in person. They are only being conducted by phone this evening. The phone number to participate in public comments is 267-715-3717 and is being displayed on the screen at this time. You'll be able to join the meeting by calling in on your mobile or landline phone. A citizen will be recognized once during this period of the meeting, and each citizen's comments will be limited to a total of 3 minutes, except at the discretion of the president. Time may not be yielded or otherwise transferred by one speaker to another for purposes of extending a given speaker's time allotment. The board thanks the public in advance for its cooperation. Mr. Green, do we have anyone on the line?
Yes, we have another caller on the line. The next
Okay.
the next citizen for public comment is phone number ending in 5884. Please
Okay.
state your full name and address.
Hello, yeah, Joe Rooney, and I'm in Ardsley. First, just like to
Hello?
mention that February is the 80th anniversary of the landing on Iwo Jima. That was 80 years ago. And I'd love one of our school directors to answer a quick question. Why is the flag raising on Mount Suribachi iconic? Maybe you know, maybe you don't. Anyway, there are Abington High School graduates and Abington residents, obviously, who fought at Iwo Jima, and God bless every one of them and their family, and some of them did not come home. So now, one thing that amazes me, and again, folks, if you're listening, you need to vote no. It's not because we don't need to upgrade the middle school. It's because this is a bad plan. I thought it was really curious to have the president talk about how she was looking, there's not a lot of bargains anymore. This plan is no bargain. If there's anybody that doesn't think you couldn't plan something that will improve the education of our middle school students for the next decades for less than $850 a square foot, then you're just not thinking about it. Because with a good plan, we could spend less money than that and get an improved education. If you'll notice when they talk about this stuff, when you went back to the comprehensive plan, they mentioned Lexile levels. They didn't even say the SAT, the DESE Mini, and these other things. They don't say how this $285 million expenditure will improve any of those scores, because they won't. This is just a gigantic capital improvement project, and it has no focus on improving the education of our middle school students. The other thing that's amazing is the total lack of empathy that was displayed by our board and our administration as they've gone through this process for, once again, our neighbors who are struggling, people who are on a fixed income, young families that are struggling to meet all of their bills. They literally will be pricing people out of their homes in Abington and Rockledge with this $285 million project. So please, folks, a vote no is a vote that says we need a better plan, and we need a better plan that improves the education of our middle school students, not something that just builds a monument to the school district. So please, we rein in this crazy spending. Government at every level is out of control, and we have to stand up and both protect our kids and focus on protect our taxpayers and focus on educating our kids. Thank you.
Thank you for your voice. Mr. Green, is there anyone else for public comment?
Yes, we do have a caller on the line. The next
Okay.
citizen for public comment is phone number ending in 2561. Please state your full name and address.
Hello, this is Susie Pardella. I live in Highland Ave in Abington.
If you can hear me, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, great. Hi. So I am calling about the referendum, just to voice support for it. From what I can tell on the AST website, which is, God, honestly, it's almost overwhelming, the amount of information on there, and I do appreciate the amount of transparency and just charts and presentations and surveys and feedback and everything that's on there. It's been a really long planning process. It looks like it got started back in 2023, and it's been a couple years of doing research and pricing out different options. And I know at least one of the
Ma'am?
surveys I took has yes?
I'm sorry, the
Can you hear me?
beginning of your call got lost. Could you just identify yourself, please?
Yes. Susie Pribella. I'm on Highland Ave in Abington.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's totally fine. It's probably better because I have, organization can be tough. But I just wanted to say there's a lot of information out there. I'm comfortable that the school board has gotten the data and just sort of the feedback from all across the community and from experts in building and construction, just sort of what the different options are, and they've narrowed it down. And what I've come away from is that this the need to repair the middle school it's not an if, it's a when. And this is a good time because we're at a point where a lot of the major systems are at the end of their useful life. So things like HVAC and roof that are going to be expensive repairs and which are just going to prolong the need to actually do a real overhaul, they're all at their end of their lifespan now. And so the time to kind of to come up with a new plan and to build a new building is now. And it's not just a new building. It is a new way to organize classes so that the students are able to meet and just sort of learn more effectively. It's improvements to the fields and the facilities. They're used not just by the students, but by sports clubs and just other parts of the community. I've got a couple of kids in middle school and a couple of younger kids who honestly probably won't benefit by the time this is built, because even if it gets approved, it's still a multi-year process to build. But I see this as an investment in the community, and part of the reason I moved to Abington was for the school district and the benefits and the things that it offers. So for that reason, I'm in support. And I would just encourage, if you have any questions, that you reach out to the contact on that website, because they have been really good about responding, and there's FAQs and things on there, and there's just a ton of information. So if you're curious about what's out there and what the costs are and what they considered, go ahead and take a look and decide for yourself as well. Thanks.
Thank you for your voice.
You're welcome.
Mr. Green?
We have no callers on the line.
Okay. Dr. Fetcher.
Thank you, Dr. Mowry. I just want to take a moment to make a comment on the middle school project. And first, I want to appreciate that all callers who called in about the middle school project recognize that the facility is in need of repair. And why I appreciate that is because that is what the studies have shown us that we began years ago when we first started with our facilities condition assessment and further by the feasibility study. This planning process is essential for the district, and it not only is a plan for our facilities and those improvements on the physical building, but it is also to address a properly designed building for middle school age students to enhance education and learning for our students and for the future of Abington School District. So I appreciate all the input this evening, and most definitely appreciate that it is recognized that we do need to do something. So thank you very much.
Thank you. With that, my computer just went on rest. I think we move on to closing comments from school directors. Mrs. Brown.
Thank you, everyone. It continues to be a pleasure to serve. Have a good night.
Ms. Eisenhart.
Thank you all for tuning in. I appreciated all the wonderful feedback and dialogue from community members who called in. Wanted to shout out all of our students, staff, parents, and volunteers in the community that are engaging in play season. We're lucky to have so many wonderful investments in the arts, and I look forward to getting to catch as many as I can in the upcoming weeks and months. And special congrats to McKinley Elementary on their beautiful performance and a full volunteer effort. It was remarkable and inspiring to witness. And last but not least, stay safe out there, and grateful for heat and my home this evening. Good night, all.
Thank you, Mr. Muhammad.
It's Happy Black History Month again. Be curious, continue learning stories and narratives that are oftentimes pushed away, shut down, ignored, and historically have been treated as such for a while. And I'm very thankful that we're in a district that acknowledges Black history. And, I implore everyone to learn histories that are sometimes shoved aside as not important. Happy Valentine's Day. Be safe out there.
Thank you. Ms. Spalding.
I want to also emphasize this, Black history is American history. So it's something that really should be taught widely. Happy Valentine's Day. Enjoy the Eagles parade and have a good evening.
Thank you. Ms. Hartman.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and stay safe out there.
Ms. Fraser?
Same. Safe travels tomorrow. Have a good night, everyone.
Ms. Fazy?
Thank you, everyone. Take good care. Have a good night.
And Ms. Wu? I don't want to forget you this time.
It's okay. I just want to say thank you and for the upcoming school calendar for considering all cultures and people. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to make 2 points as we're getting ready to turn off. The first is about the proposed school building. I think it's important to recognize, though it's an expensive project, that building will benefit all our students regardless of the income of their family. And that's really important. So students who come from families that may struggle some economically will have access to high quality facilities, state-of-the-art labs, athletic facilities, performance facilities, state-of-the-art educational practices, and that's really valuable. The other point I want to make is, I don't talk about this very often because there's not a lot of occasion to, but my grandfather earned a Purple Heart on Iwo Jima. And he came home after World War II, and he and my grandmother put all 4 of their kids through a publicly funded university system in New York State. That was an opportunity that was unimaginable to he and my grandmother when they were growing up in the Depression, both of them dirt poor. So, I've mentioned this in the past, the education is the single greatest driver of economic opportunity. And in a lot of ways, my grandfather put his life on the line during World War II to secure that for his children. So I'll just leave with that tonight and wish everyone a good night. Enjoy the beautiful snow, and thank you for tuning in.